I want to make this quick broadcast just to quickly address something trending between Peter Obi and Omoyele Sowore supporters. Quite a number of people are making suggestions, insinuations, and the rest. Well, in the wave of the online and hyped support for Peter Obi, a lot of people are asking that Mr. Omoyele Sowore should support Mr. Peter Obi. Well, I have listened to Mr. Omoyele Shobore. I'm still making efforts to try to reach Mr. Peter Obi so that we can at least, when Shobore came up in 2019 to step out, we reached out and it was open enough to allow for people to interview him and all that. Mr. Peter Obi, I want to believe, will do the same because whoever would be representing the interest of the masses should be that accessible so that if you have open heart and all that, which I believe Mr. Obi is open hearted. I've also listened to some of the people saying that Mr. Peter Obi is the next person we should look up to as alternative to rescue Nigeria from the doldrums that we are all in. And then I'm also interested in listening. Yeah, some of you who joined us yesterday, we had Mr. Omoyele Showore, and we are also interested in also having Mr. Peter Obi. This is an objective analysis, objective monitoring and reporting of events. Having listened to Mr. Omoyele Showore and having also talked to some of the supporters of Mr. Peter Obi, I think there's a fair equilibrium we can reach, and I want to use it. I want to tell you the analysis first, and then give you the equilibrium. I mean, the middle point and the objective conclusion that I have tentatively, pending when we get the final outcome of what is going to happen between or about these two persons that we are all looking at. Okay, now, so what I'm going to tell you is that let's start with Mr. Omoyele Showore. In fairness to him, and I want to also to consider it and put yourself in his shoes. Somebody uh, left his comfort in the United States of America, okay, and then came to Nigeria, went to jail, did everything possible. His party was even infiltrated and hijacked, and then taken from him. He was constantly in and out of courts, and as we speak right now, he's still in Abuja, not because he doesn't want to leave, but because he still has cases that if he leaves, they'll just call the case the next morning, and then they will say because he wasn't around or he jumped there. So somebody has been consistently in and out of court. He has been shot. He has faced all sort of things, fighting tooth and nail. And then suddenly, because there's a new hype, you want him to collapse all the things he has fought for and just submit it under uh, somebody who is now being hyped. And there's no feeling. Me personally, I'm also interested in a Peter Obi. But let us face our facts. Asking Shore to come and collapse all he has fought for all his life under a new hype, just like that, will not be fair. Okay. Now let's come to that. Is as far as Mr. Omoyele Shore is concerned. If you want to put yourself in his shoes, I do not think it is right to say, "Oh, Shore should collapse all he has been fighting for and put it under a new hype." I do not think it will be fair to him to say that. This chats are coming on, but this thing is not overlaying. I don't know. Okay, well, at any that is as far as Mr. Omoyele Shore is concerned. Let's come to Mr. Peter Obi. Mr. Peter Obi had one time been governor, and in the wake of the agitation that power shifts or moves to southeast, people are saying, well, the best option right now. I also agree, but I want to also say that asking Mr. Peter Obi where is his position right now. Mr. Peter Obi is currently, as we speak right now, a member of Labour Party. He joined Labour Party in less than a week and he became the candidate, which is quite commendable. But if you were in somebody like Shore's shoes, for instance, that the antecedents of Labour Party and you also know the antecedents of PDP. Labour Party over time had always endorsed candidates of the ruling party. Whenever, especially that they do not have not candidate that doesn't really have enough financial muscle to fight. Don't forget that the reason Mr. Peter Obi left PDP is because it doesn't have the financial muscle to fight uh, those who are coming into PDP. So he left in the Labour Party. If you are now asking Mr. Omoyore, for instance, to abandon his own and go and collapse under the structure, why, what would you think they are also not going to whatever effect will be in Labour Party will affect Mr. Sowore too. So will that not be too daft of Sowore to have abandoned the structure he built alone? If Mr. Peter Obi had been in the within this circle for a very long time, to know that even if you want to stand alone, you must have started long ago. You don't just wake up one morning and say you are leaving the party you have been part of to go and join a new one, and then overnight you want to be their candidate and you will not expect lawsuits. If, for instance, the people who are currently or existing members of the party decide to sue the Labour Party leadership for bringing some or imposing somebody on them, and that case in the court lasts till towards the general election, and then last year towards the general election, and then court now gives a ruling that affects Peter Obi's ability to contest, what do you think will then happen? Whoever has joined him in the party, all of them have been affected together. That is the meaning. So Sowore has gone through all those. He has gone through whatever is going to amount like test of his capacity and all that. Okay, he has gone through it. He has faced the DSS intimidation. He has conquered. He has faced police. He has conquered. He has faced infiltration and hijack of his party. He has conquered. You now want him to just come and submit that to somebody who has not yet faced his own rigor, because no matter how much all of us like Peter Obi, he will still face rigor where he is right now. You understand what I'm saying? He will still face his rigor. Mr. Peter Obi is still going to face maybe EFCC intimidation. They will harass him no matter what. Okay, they will still harass Mr. Peter Obi the moment they see that the wave is becoming so much. Okay, don't forget that the moment voters decided to register in mass at Alaba International Market, report trickled in immediately that they were already harassing the people who were registering en masse. The moment the ruling establishment sense anything that is going to threaten their being or continuity, they will definitely roll out machineries to start attacking both the people who are registering to vote and the person who they want to vote while they are registering to come and face and survive his own ordeal yet. So it's still too early for me to say Peter Obi and Sowore should work together. Let Peter Obi go and face his own ordeal and come out clean first. Do not forget that similar thing happened in 2019 when they say all young aspirants should come together and work together. You understand? And then we all know what outcome that had. Even the person who presided or oversaw that coalition among Felado Toye, Mogalu Sowore, the person who did it was actually Mrs. Obi Ezekwesili. Dr. Obi Ezekwesili herself, at the end of the coalition, still went ahead and contested too. You are presiding over something that is supposed to make young contenders come together, but you yourself still went ahead and still contested against the outcome. And then even you who contested against the outcome of the young aspirants coming together, you were also still booted out because the party she contested under still abandoned her and still went to endorse candidate of the ruling party. Do you understand what we're saying? Candidate of one of the two major parties. So that's what we're saying, that it is too early to be trying to coerce Sowore or forcing Sowore. If you want to be fair to him, it's too early to try to be forcing him to go and join somebody who is enjoying hype at the moment. He hasn't gone through the rigor. He hasn't faced ordeal yet. He hasn't faced anything. And you want somebody who has gone through all of that and has come out better to come and submit all those struggle under a hype. I do not think it is fair. So while we all want a Peter Obi, while we also love and support a Sowore, we can't just discard the result of a Showore's struggle over the years and dump it under a hype of the moment. I do not think it is fair to think that way. Now, that is just me giving objective analysis. I'm not a member of any political party. I've always told you ever since. But I will always tell you that while we are tired of APC and PDP ruling, especially by presenting old candidates who do not represent our aspirations as a new generation, or current generation, or even generations coming after, we also at the same time do not have to sacrifice or dump the results of struggles over the years just under a hype. I think we should allow Mr. Peter Obi time to also go through, because people like Mr. Sowore will definitely be faced by DSS. We understand it. Faced by DSS because he's coming from activist background. So whatever it calls for, revolution, protest, and all that, they will always allege threats to government stability, and that's what they can allege. Because he hasn't stolen, he's not collecting contract or anything before. He wasn't a former governor or minister. He hasn't taken appointment or anything. But if the system, that was the way the system could respond against a Sowore. If the system wants to respond or react to a Peter Obi's wave, it might be EFCC. And we do not see the way they destabilized Okorocha towards the build-up of the APC primaries. Some of you understand it already. It destabilized him, that he even scored 0 votes during the primary. They released him eventually, but it already destabilized him. Okay. Now, that is what they normally use against people who have been in the system before. Now, and Peter Obi will not be an exception. They will use EFCC towards the end. They may even use the party towards them, because the party over the years had been an appendage of PDP. They always ended up adopting candidates of one of the two parties in Nigeria. So Peter Obi, they may still end up forcing and coercing him to act, because I'm also suspecting PDP already concluded their primaries long ago. But the reason Atiku may not have yet picked his running mate may be because they are expecting that a Peter Obi may still accept Atiku's offer to be his running mate. So if Peter Obi ends up accepting to be Atiku's running mate, the same hype will still go back there. So how is it therefore different from what we are all talking about? So for me, I think we should just do something. Let us understand Peter Obi. If you want to campaign for him, campaign for him. If you want to promote or hype him, hype him. I also do, that, okay, I think a Peter Obi wave is something to also look into or consider. I also think at the same time that a Sowore who has been in the struggle, fighting consistent, they have tried him over time and he still remains standing, should be accorded his own. If you don't want to support him, leave him. I think it would be unfair to ask him to just come and collapse all the wahala he has been doing, sacrificing his freedom, his comfort, his family, everything, to come and stay uncomfortable and be fighting consistently every day, to come and just submit it under a new, because of hype. No, I think it's not fair. So respect Sowore. I've asked him before, do you want to work with angels? Do you think in a Nigerian setting you can work with angels? There are no angels in Nigeria. You just have to choose among the people and still find the ones you can work with. And he said it's not about whether he wins or not. It's about the consistency and what he stands to represent, that he cannot compromise it, that he is not against people who are willing to come and work, that is open to every suggestions, but he knows they want to filter to say, no, we know the history of this one, and asking me to go and submit to that one means, what have I therefore been representing over 30 years that I have been rejecting offers to become a billionaire? I will now go and just submit it cheaply under one, just because he was a former governor. So let's respect Sowore for who he is. We don't all have to agree with him, but let us respect that is where he stands and that is where his position is. Let's respect him and leave him there. If we don't support him, it's fine. If we support him, it's fine. But trying to force or coerce him or harass him into submitting all the struggles of almost over 30 years. Sowore had been offered before, in case most of you don't know, to come and become a senator. And he refused. To come and become whatever, even minister, he refused. So is it now that he wants to now come and so he knows how to identify? Let us leave him. He knows how to identify who to work with. Let's not coerce anybody or force anybody. I think what is important is, well, Peter Obi is good based on all our assumptions. Sowore is good based on all our assumptions. All these alternatives you are looking at are good in their own right. The only challenge all of us have right now that is making us be aggressive, the Sowore camp, the Peter Obi camp, the only reason we are aggressive at one ourselves, though, we are all looking for alternatives. The only reason we are aggressive at ourselves is that the road to power, it is that road to power. We know what a Peter Obi will do with power. Fine. We know what a Sowore will do with power. Fine. But getting the power, that road to power is where the issue is. You understand? So that is exactly why I said, well, leave Sowore, respect his decision. He knows who to work with. He knows who he cannot work with. And it's not compulsory that he wins now. It's not compulsory that Peter Obi wins now. I think at appropriate time, the two of them will find the ground if they would be one to work together. But all this harassment, the APC and PDP camps are happy when they see this harassment between Obi and Showore's camp, because these are the people you all are looking at as alternative. I think it doesn't really make sense that the people looking for alternative are fighting it. Don't coerce anybody. Don't insult Sowore, because what he has sacrificed so far, if it is easy, all of us would have done it. But it's not easy, but he's still trying, and you still want him to submit. It will be, he was open enough to allow different people, and eventually they hijacked his party. Do you want him after succeeding to gain his party back, and in less than 2 weeks, he's just submit it again and they hijack it again? Sowore has rights. Sowore has rights. Sowore has every right to suspect everybody and anybody. From what he has seen so far, yes, he has right. Let us respect. He has right to suspect anybody. So he needs to take his time to determine who to work with. He has right to take his time. Let us understand. He has right. If you were in his shoes, you will not accept just anything anyhow. Knowing how it is to build what he has built, including integrity. The reason why those people who are strong-hearted and still following him are doing so is because they have seen him, standing consistently over time. That even when they are sharing dollars and sharing, he refused. He stood his ground, and he will not reject your decision to go and follow the hype. He will say, well, you're free to go, but I can only tell you that this is what this is. So respect him, and I'm not campaigning for him. I'm only giving my objective analysis based on what I have seen and read and researched by myself so far. Okay, a Peter Obi ideology or idea is not bad. A Tinubu idea is not bad, and I will tell you what I mean by that. I spoke with somebody because I just came back from Ibadan, and I told somebody on my way who was saying it has to be this. I said a Tinubu idea is good. You know why? Tinubu is nearing his end, and he also knows he might be willing to give his last to rescue the nation. You never know. Tinubu might just want to spend only 1 year, because I know some of his diehard followers who say, even if it is just 1 day Tinubu spends there and he dies, they don't care. That at least that 1 day is important. So I do not know what their mission or agenda is to say, even if it's just 1 day. But I'm saying also that you never know. Somebody may just get there and just do something in 1 day and leave. Okay? But the point again is, all the candidates in their own rights are okay. Even Atiku. I listened to one of articles, and don't nail me with this, just listen. I'm a psychologist, and I'm talking from that angle. I listened to one of Atiku's interviews, and I think it was what's the name of this lady, asked her, somebody must do something. A man who is successful like you must do something. It's either you humanize or you or you drink? Which of them do you do, or do you do both? And Atiku said, I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I've since stopped womanizing. Meaning that he has seen it all. There's nothing he's looking for again, except for perhaps just power. Okay, whatever he now wants to do with power, we don't know. He may just want to get in there and do, but I've also listened to where he also said at the same time that he wants to make his friends rich. And I'm not his friend. The masses, how many of them are his friends? So let us get it clear. You don't know, like if you go to church, some people will say, and to my dafun, mi na Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kó dá fún, and tí ẹ máa bàjẹ́ tó máa affect mi, Ọlọ́run má jẹ́ kó tí ẹ bàjẹ́. Let me attempt a fair translation in English. Whoever will be afflicted, that it will also affect me. We pray for that person not to be afflicted, because it will also affect me. Whoever would be prosperous or fulfilled, that will also trickle down to me. We pray for that person to get fulfilled. So those who are asking for Atiku to get there have their reason. Those who are saying it should be Tinubu have their reason. Those who are saying we are tired of the two political parties, we want alternative, and it has to be either Kwankwaso or Obi or Sowore. They also have their reasons. All I just want to say is, let us stop the attacks. It's not necessary. The ruling establishments are happy that the so-called alternatives are confused, attacking each other. That is where I want to advise, please. My conclusion, objective conclusion is, I understand that they always plug infiltrators into these new movements like this that are genuine. Okay. Then anybody, if you are supporting Peter Obi, if you see anybody accusing or abusing Sowore for not leaving what he has been fighting for to come and join Peter Obi, be cautious, because that person may be one of the most they are planting among the new struggle. They did it during Sunday Igboho's time. Some of you will remember when I was saying, hey, the way these people are going, I'm not sure all of these people are genuine agitators. Some of them are molds. And it turned out that they were molds. Look at what happened to Igbo. It could not have happened just by guesswork. They finished their assignment, and they must have gotten enough info through insider. I told you, you have to be careful when you're doing something like this, just accepting everybody and saying you don't support right. No, be careful. So when you see somebody making certain kinds of statements, attacking another person who you also are already convinced is not a thief and is not doing it in the interest of, and you are also supporting those such person, that means you may also be confused. So please, if you are supporting Tinubu, support Tinubu. If you are supporting Atiku, support Atiku. If you are supporting Peter Obi, support Peter Obi. If you are supporting Sowore, support Sowore. Sowore's camp attacking Peter Obi is not necessary. Obi's camp attacking Sowore is, so I do not, in my opinion, I know yesterday when I interviewed Mr. Sowore, he said it is part of his duty or job that apart from selling his idea and what should work, that it's also part of his duty to expose the opponents who are not genuine, that he has a duty to be exposing them. Well, respect him and leave him. Okay. He may work, let the audience interpret it and determine by themselves. But trying to attack Peter Obi or trying to attack Sowore may not be necessary. We just need to only educate ourselves, and let us all see. Educate me why Tinubu is necessary. I've listened to Pro Tinubu's camp before. Only one person convinced me to an extent. It's not as if I was really persuaded, though, but he gave points that I saw that, okay, even if it's just one day Tinubu comes, and if he does what he truly wishes to do, he may turn Nigeria around before he dies. Like some people say, well, it happened during Yar'Adua's time, except that he wasn't able to finish it, which is another disadvantage or shortcoming of that point that person gave that day. Yeah, it's a shortcoming. What if he starts and is unable to finish? So somebody wants us to allow Tinubu to use his last breath to do what they feel he will be able to do. Others feel no, it should be Atiku. But if it goes back to Atiku, are you not back to the note you are all shouting against? Okay, fine. It's not about tribe. Okay, fine. Atiku's role over the years, condemning, killing, and deleting it again and apologizing. Atiku's role and all that. So if you look at all of these things, everything at the end of the day still boils down to whatever reason you are. I've met somebody before who defended Abacha with all his might, and he's a Yoruba man. I met him in Bariga. He had a power bike. He's a rich man, but he uses power bike to be able to navigate around because of traffic. And then I saw Abacha's picture on his bike, and I asked him, Abacha, is this not the anti-democratic element that people are protesting against? And you know what he told me? He said, Abacha is the best head of state Nigeria ever had. It's just that people, propaganda were used against him. He has his reason. Everybody has their reason. I think it will be in our collective interest that everybody just analyzes and defends their own positions and interests, uh, you know, let's say objectively, give points, let others give their points instead of insulting one another. I do not think it's necessary. Insult lasted while votes were going on during the last election, and we are all here. The result is not better. It's not, you don't need to insult me, I don't need to insult you. Let's all be objective. If somebody says you are no normal, you are not well, this is what is up, this is the situation, just ask the person, give me your points. If he gives you points, instead of insulting the person, look at the point, analyze one by one, and give your own point. You don't know, at the end of the day, the person may come back to agree that your own point is stronger and that they should do this. So for me, I do not think electorate insulting one another is the best way to go. Even the people behind whom or which all of you are queuing up, hmm, most of them at the end of the day one another. Remember, Peter B still congratulated Atiku and still saluted them and said, "That's my leader." I don't know whether Peter Obi, if the crisis in Labour Party is too much, will still go back and accept to become Atiku's deputy. You never know, and you're already insulting, everybody. You don't also know whether, as you are insulting Tinubu, whether Peter Obi, Atiku and Tinubu know where they meet to agree that, okay, if I lose, this is what we will agree to do. We'll form a national government. I'll suggest or recommend the cabinet. I'll form 20% of your cabinet, or I'll be 10% of your cabinet, because I also put crowd and I made sure, because you don't know. You just don't know. So at the end of the day, these people do not fight. So why must their supporters fight? Why must the supporters quarrel? It's not necessary. We should not be doing all of this. So please, I want to plead with you. We have never had to plead with the ruling class because they don't fight. We have only always had to plead with the supporters because they are the oppressed people. And the oppressed people have one thing in common. It is their oppression. All of you, all of us are oppressed. So instead of fighting ourselves at the end of the day, okay, let us please stop attacking one another, because at the end of the day, I want to ask you, if Peter Obi eventually accepts to be Atiku's running mate, what will you now say? Because initially the slogan was that PDP is the only party that can defeat APC, that is the only alternative. Suddenly it is Peter Obi's Labour Party that will defeat both APC and PDP. Tomorrow you don't know what you are going to be shifting to, and you don't want to be looking confused. So please, be careful. Take your time. Don't insult anybody. And that's just my advice to everybody. Good day once again. My name is Shegunlo. Bye for now.
Please meet Mr. Abiodun Akinyemi, a man who is looking to solve the big chunk of the housing crisis that we have in Nigeria by making affordable, self-sufficient homes. This kind of homes are becoming more and more popular, by the way, because they are efficient and they are environmentally friendly, and then it costs less to make them if you think about it in the long run. Anyway, before I tell you about the smart homes that he's building, let me tell you a little bit about his story. He's based in Canada right now, and he decided to build a house in Lagos, Nigeria, where he's from. But upon making inquiries, the cost of building a house has increased significantly since he moved to Canada. So instead of using concrete brick throughout his construction, he substituted it with laterite, and he was able to save 30% of the construction cost. Laterite has a lot of advantages, by the way, including warming your home during the cold weather, cooling your home in the hot season. It's cheaper because it's readily available. It's everywhere in Nigeria. It has high clay content, which means it can hold more water. Laterite gives you better air quality. So if you build your house with laterite, you can breathe in better air quality. You can even recycle it. So if you build a house with laterite and you don't like it, you can break down the house and use the brick to build another house. And that's just to name a few of the advantages. But he didn't stop at building his personal house. He decided to make his house self-sufficient, off-grid, which means that he's not going to be dependent on the electricity from the Nigerian government. So he's using solar power, and he's also not going to be using power generator, so there will be no noise, no air pollution. At the same time, he's not using the regular sockaway that everybody uses in Nigeria. He's disposing his own waste material by decomposing it, and he's generating his own water. So once the house is completed, he doesn't need anything from them. And this is why they call this home self-sufficient, off-grid homes. That alone inspires me. The fact that he was able to find an alternative to just spending so much money on building a house. And the fact that he doesn't have to depend on the government, he made himself a self-sufficient house. That is the inspiration for me. But then he took it a step further. So after learning from his own experience, he wants to do the same for others, except that he wants to do it better. If you see the picture of the house, you may not be too impressed by the aesthetic, but he calls this the experimental house because what he has decided to do is to now mass produce this kind of house for other people. In case anybody out there is interested in having a house that will be self-sufficient, he has bought acres of land in Lakeway Beachfront in order to construct an off-grid estate. And what you guys are seeing is what he would be constructing. All these houses would not be using NEPA, and they will be constructed with laterite bricks. If anyone is interested, he's looking for 10 people, just 10 people to start out. The price starts at 34 million naira for 3 bedrooms, and you can pay in installment. He has a contract readily available, readily prepared, which you can share with your lawyer to know if that's a good deal or not. I mean, some people may feel like that's a lot of money, but it's a one-time payment that you no longer have to worry about electricity bill. You no longer have to worry about paying them to empty your sock away and stuff like that. It's a one-time payment that you know that from beginning to end, you know your house is complete and self-sufficient. Anyway, I asked him, by the way, I said, what if someone is interested right now and they decided to pay you, and along the way they decided they're no longer interested, they don't like what they are seeing? And he said to me that your money is refundable, as stated in the contract. He said he will give you back 95% of the money, and the remaining 5% is for administrative charges. He's using a system of interlocking bricks instead of the traditional style of construction. And this system results in a house that is 10 times stronger than traditionally built house, and also more terminally efficient. Each home would have its own fire system and will be conveniently located by a fire hydrant in order to make it easier for fire crews to help just in case of an emergency. We'll be building common areas that will have a gym, a playground, swimming pool, ball courts, grocery stores, and so on and so forth. And more importantly, the houses in his estate will reduce global warming and human carbon footprint. So guys, if you're interested, please check him out. This is his